Remember we said that Yosef gave a fifth to Paro. Why is this fifth level connected with Paro? Paro represents undoing all limitations. Ispriu v'izgalin kol nahorin represents undoing every last level of limitation and separation and concealment, which is like the priya of a bris, the removal of the fine membrane, which lets all the lights out. And then we said, how does this show up in Avodas Hashem? There's a level called B'chol Levavcha V'chol Navshecha, and we said B'chol Navshecha is a pretty high level. I feel no till it's Navshech, even if you have to die for it. But we gave a kind of a wild perush on this, that even dying for a mitzvah is still not really called L'Shem Shamayim. Why? Because you're giving your body in order to, so to speak, save your soul. And therefore there's still some like element of self, and it's not completely l'mayla from all your hagbalas and meitzarim. So therefore, b'chol miyodecha is that you're even willing to sacrifice your soul. In other words, it's a complete removal of self. Like we said the story of the Alter Rebbe yesterday to give a little context to that. Yes, Noam?
So we went in a little circle about this last time, but I still don't see how it's possible for somebody to sacrifice their soul. Let's say like if Yehuda Nasi would have, for instance, like gotten cars in the world to come also that his soul just wrote down the Torah, and then he sort of sacrificed his soul in order to save the Jewish people. But I'm sure he got a very good reward.
But that's not, he wasn't going for the reward. If Hashem wants to reward you for being Esther Amalka and letting yourself into Achashverosh, or he wants to reward you for being Moshe Rabbeinu and saying, Mecheni na misifrecha, kill me, take me out of your Torah. That was Moshe's honest request. Moshe wasn't like secretly thinking, well, this way I'm going to get like even a higher reward. No, he was like, the Jewish people's dignity and the truth of God comes before my own life and even my own place in the Torah, which is Moshe's Torah. So no, there is such a level. I know it sounds crazy, but you're just not in it for yourself at all, not even spiritually. Whatever it is, it's okay.
Yeah, at the end of the day, still gain spiritually.
If Hashem wants to, the truth is there's no one left to gain. That's the point. Whatever the gain is, it's Hashem's gain, right? In other words, it's worth more to have Moshe still as a character in the Torah. But what does Moshe represent? Nachnu ma, a total absence of self. If you're there, then there's someone to do the gaining. If you're willing to completely remove yourself 100%, who's gaining? There's not even someone that can say, thank you, I appreciate it, I'm benefiting from this. It's an absence of self. And what happens when you absence yourself? Who takes the place? The Eibishter. So it's just like, it's the presence of God. The whole idea of Bitul Metzias is that you're not there anymore to experience it. You give up like we say that, Ner Havaya Nishmas Adam, right? We speak also another example. The flame of God is the soul of man. What is the flame of God? Why is it connected to your neshama? Because the neshama has a weird natural desire inside of it. Like a flame, it's willing to and looking to try to jump off the wick, even though when it does so, it doesn't have any more existence anymore. It won't be a flame. And this is like a strange potentiality that this Jewish soul exists, that we'd rather not be for the sake of Hashem. We're literally willing to just give up our bodies, our souls, anything. It's a nature of the essence of the soul that it's one with God, and it doesn't have any selfish leanings to gain, not physically, not spiritually, and anything. It's inside of each one of us. In any case, it's called the fifth level, and this is called in our Avodas Hashem b'chol miyodecha. And this is what the Alter Rebbe is also driving us all the time. It says mi li b'shamayim b'mechalu chafatz. This is where we left off yesterday. That it's this notion that I don't want your Gan Eden, I don't want your Olam Haba, right? I want only you alone. And this is sort of like something that it is the Priya. It is something that was revealed, the thin membrane in the latest days of the Jewish, reality, that the Alter Rebbe even made such a level of available to us and made this something that we can even consider inside of ourselves. Who do I have in heaven and with you, i.e. anything other than you alone, I don't desire. Okay, that was just a review from yesterday, and we spent a lot of time on it, so let's move on, if you don't mind, to Dalet. V'zeu inyan hei lachma anya. Getting back to the point. At this night, when you start the Seder, you say, hey, right? You start off with just like open up. There's a hey at the table. Right? On the night of Pesach, the fifth level is revealed. And we said the fifth doesn't even really only represent the Keser. It's just like an indicator of even the Atzmus. What's unique about this Hey of Pesach is that it's not just that you sort of access something called the fifth, But it's actually, you access what he's going to say is something called the 5. What's different than the 5th and 5? We have this same dynamic come out when we count the Omer. If you ever remember this drasha from the Omer. How do we count the Omer? Let's say it's 5 days of the Omer. What do you say? Do you say Hayom Chamishi? No. What do you say? Hayom Chamesh Yamim, right? Or Chamisha Yamim, right? So what does it mean? What's the difference saying the 5th versus 5? What is the difference, practically speaking?
It's the 5th one out of, like,
It's dependent on
days, whereas like if you're saying 5, it's just like it is 5 days. Like it's you're not necessarily counting up. You're just like, this is the sum.
Very good. When you say this is 5 days, you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 also, right? You have 5 things. When you say the 5th, you only have one thing. It's the 5th thing. So too, when we talk about this 5th level, which is basically Hashem's essence, sometimes, and even in Chassidus, they dance around this. This is a very deep sugya. Sometimes when you're addressing, so to speak, the essence, it's as though you're addressing something else. But if it's truly the essence, isn't it everything? And therefore, you could call it the 5th, Chamishis, the part of the 5th, which means you're like distinguishing this essence as something other than the whole. But which means that there's something called creation and there's something called beyond creation. You're sort of indicating this level of beyond creation. When you call it 5, what you're saying is that 5th level has consumed all the other 4 levels. You have all 5, which means the 5th level is in the 4th and it's the 3rd and it's the 2nd and the 1st. It's everywhere. And this is the idea of when you say, hey, lachma'an, you don't say chamishi, right? This is the idea is that you have all 5 levels. The essence is found permeating to the lowest places. It's everywhere. You want to ask a question? You got the hand analogy. Yeah, but it's really the 5th, right? It touches all 4. Okay, Seder, yeah. But we want to say something almost more than that, like that every finger is basically the thumb. Right? It's not doesn't have an independent reality from, but okay. In other words, the 5th, you can see it as the 5th, right? But okay, I'm with you. Let's go with the thumb. So he says this is the Indian that the 5th level is nimsheches umeir b'chol daled bechinas. It comes down and found in all the other 4 levels as well. Ad le'inyan ha'maisa, all the way down where the atzmus umahus of the Eibishter is found in the physical world. Where do you think it's found in the physical world? Hey, lachma'anya. It's found in your matzah. Behetem lakavana sha'inyanim hayoser nailim. And the idea is that the intention of the highest things is that they should come ad legilu b'chinas eitan sheb'neshama kashura ima atzmus. Even the highest level, we call it the eitan of the neshama, which is the essence of the soul. It shouldn't be relegated as the essence is over there. This is also a big theme in the Rebbe's last mimer, Vata Tetzaveh, where he talks about the idea of the difference between that you can see your what we call the kochos hagiluim, which is what are the kochos hagiluim? What are the kochos hagiluim? Anybody? I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. I thought you had that like the thumb. What are the kochos hagiluim? Name them. Yeah. Mind, emotion, thought, speech, and action. Basically, the 5 levels of Seichel, Midos, Machshava, Dirumais, those are called the Kochos HaGiluim. In other words, the you that you're sort of normally aware of. Whereas what do you have inside of you? This deep, deep inner essence called the essence of the soul. But oftentimes you can see that the essence of the soul is something sort of that has to, sometimes in a moment of Mesiras Nefesh, it can come out and take over the Kochos HaGiluim, like we found, for example, in the decrees of Haman, or the Rebbe likes to point out, like in the days of the Russian communists, where Jews basically were suddenly brought to this insane level where they were able to seize their intellect and their emotion, their thought, speech, and action, and do things which would basically take their life, because the essence of the soul, the Pintel Yid, would sort of come out and dominate over their regular selves. But the Rebbe says that's not the highest level. The highest level is when there's a synergy between the essence of your soul and your kochos hagiluim, and your mind and your heart and your thought, speech, and action, so that your mind, your heart, they're not something other than the essence of your soul. They're expressions of and one with the essence of your soul. And that's the difference between 5th and 5. Right? So he says the whole purpose of these highest levels of the Eitan should come down, the Atzma should be drawn down even to Maisa B'Poel, that even your physical actions are basically expressions of the essence of your soul naturally. And there's a special night when this sort of happens, and that's called Chag HaPesach. As the Arizal says, Shachidush to Chag HaPesach hu shazivuk hu gam ba'asiyah. It's Kabbalistic terms, but I think we can handle ourselves a little bit. And it says, what does he say? That the zivug, the marriage that takes place, is even all the way down to asiyah, which means what? Exactly what we just said. The fusion of the essence of yourself. It shows up not only in your higher faculties and not only in your heart, but it enters even into the realm of Maisa, to the point that it comes out as mamash, an act of just eating, right? That you're associating this physical act with a connection to the essence of your soul. Or in the language of Chassidus, hamaisa hu ha'ikar, that the main thing is the deed. Zeu perush the hey. This is what it means in the Haggadah. Hey. Ein zerak mispar siduri. It's not just a number which is in a how do you say it in English? Like the fifth or the fourth or the third. What are those numbers called? A
fraction?
No, there's a fraction, but like you're saying, it like an account of
Decimal?
No, in other words, when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus first, second, third, fourth, fifth. There's like a different word for it.
Integer?
You're sending me into
sorry.
like third grade math right now, and it's making me nervous.
Abort.
No, in other words, it can like I don't know, whatever it is. Ela mispar. No.
Wow.
I'm not saying it's a fifth of something. I'm saying it's the fifth one or the sixth one. It's a number of ordinals, something like that. I don't know. I never get to this. Or it's a mispar kola, like I said. It's 5. It's not chamishi, it's chamesh. Hey. And this refers to the 5 as it dominates all the 4 and contains all the 4, which is exactly what we've been trying to say, that the essence is integrated and equated with the other levels of your soul, which is your basically 4 levels of Yud Ke Vav Ke, your kochos hagiloim. The giloi zed naisar de matzah. What do we say? Hey, lachma anya, right? Where is this hay? It gets elevated and sort of hatched with this bread in front of you, this poor man's bread. Shnaisa mehei mine dagan, and that's the whole point. That it's the hay goes on Pashtus on these 5 species of bread, right? Because there's 5 different types of kosher species of grain that you're allowed to make matzah with. And the Zohar speaks to this in Parshas Pinchas when it says chameshis, meaning diu chita usoora v'shifon, etc. Right? This is wheat and barley and oat and spelt, etc. Rye. Lo shavi mimana lahu elakut shabricha b'lichudoi. It's an interesting lesson of the Zohar. He says no one's appointed on these 5 types of bread except for Hashem alone. What does it mean? He explains based on what it says in the Zohar in Parshas Balak. There's a weird thing about these 5 species of bread. Bread is a serious matter. That on the bread, there is no portion of the other side. In other words, the sitra achra has no business with your bread. Uman chulka isle, the Zohar goes on to say, but wait a second, everything, you have to give its portion to the sitra achra. It's like the klippas, they come together with everything. Right? It says the kol ma the izbali ba'ar l'sitra achra is bechulka. Everything that was created in the world, it has a sitra achra. Where's the sitra achra on your bread? So he says the motes. This is like the brand, basically. The kernels of the don't have any sitra achra, but the sitra achra attaches itself to the outside, and the matzah is specifically supposed to be made from not bran. Right? You're supposed to take the fine flour and get rid of the. So if you're wondering to get the whole wheat matzah, maybe leave it for after Pesach, because the Indian here is that there's something gorgeous and untouchable by the hands of klippa in the fine flour that goes into your matzah. And that's what it means, hey, lachma anya, that these 5 species of bread, they contain the 5 levels of the soul, including the atzmus, al yidei lachma anya mamshichim hay, that through these 5 breads you draw down this 5th level, which contains all the other 4 inside of it. Seder anal hosiv kavod kedushas mor v'chamei admor. So in the same Seder that the Rebbe Rayatz was speaking about these 5 levels, he said another Inyan on the Inyan of Heilach Ma'anya. And he says, Shetchilasa be'inyan shel aniyus, v'siyum b'chol dichvin yeseh v'yechol, kol ditzrich yeseh v'yifsach. So it goes on to say, this is the bread of affliction. And what's sort of the next piece of that little statement? It says, anyone who is downtrodden, right? He should come and eat. Anyone who's needy should come and make his Pesach. So in other words, this is the bread of affliction. Then you invite everyone in. Anyone who's hungry, come eat. And he says there's a little bit of a contradiction here. It starts off with the idea of poverty. Here's the bread of affliction, and then it comes and says basically, everyone's welcome at my table. This is like enough to feed the entire Jewish people. Anyone who's hungry, come eat my bread. Which is an Indian of a shirus. It's like the tachlus of wealth that your table's open to literally like every Jew in the world. Anyone, there's a place where someone's downtrodden and is needy, he can come eat my bread. So it's like two opposites completely inside of this one statement. Are you in a state of poverty? Are you in a state of like abject wealth? Yeah.
How do we associate the hay to the 5 to the matzah, to the 5 species?
There's 5 types of grain that you're allowed to make matzah out of, kosher matzah out of, yeah. Okay, so the answer to this, I think we have to wait till tomorrow, unfortunately, because we schlepped a little here. So tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, Shkoyach. Let's pass it in. Pass them in. Minchas now.